Hello, friends. Long time no see, but I am back. I'm coming in at the last minute. This might even go late. This video might go up when the fights are just starting, maybe a little bit after they started, but that's neither here nor there. Hopefully, these get to you when they're supposed to get to you. And by these, I mean these picks. UFC 315. I'm not going to lie, even though I might seem a little hyped in the beginning, I can't help but feel like this card is not dog shitty. And some of you that watch this channel or that have watched this channel, especially the live streams, know I'm very optimistic. And I'm very optimistic about the quality of the UFC. Optimistic is a strange word to use, but I'm generous. I'm generous in my criticism and judgment of the quality of the fights, both my thoughts beforehand and during and after watching them. This card, however, 315, I just think it's a little middy. It's tough, but we're about to see right here. Let's get things started. First fight of the night, Bekzat Almakhan versus Brad Katona. Brad Katona, man. Again, if you had, I hate to say this 50 times already, but if you've been watching this channel, you'll know Brad Katona, we've hated on the man, but we've also had to pick the man because he does win fights. In his second UFC run, the winner of not the most recent, but of the Ultimate Fighter, I think it was 29, some shit like that. Either way, it was the veterans versus prospects. Prospects got smoked, all but one, if I'm not mistaken. Brad Katona's not smoked, but he beat Cody Gibson in the finale. Very nice. And he's had some ups and downs since then. I'm going with Brad Katona here. I was kind of waffling around. I'm going Brad Katona here because I think that he can. This is basically his kind of fight, you know, a little bit of an underdog against a dude who is primarily a striker. A lot of people rate Bekzat's loss to Umar Nurmagomedov, but the man got mauled. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, you know, he brought Umar to a unanimous decision. Like, the dude got smoked. He did get smoked. He just didn't get finished. That's really all there is to say about that. Not exactly sold on Bekzat. He does have size over Brad Katona. He could win. The odds are very close, and I think this is going to be a close fight, but I do see Brad Katona just doing enough, edging it out with a little bit of grappling. Even if the grappling doesn't work for Brad Katona, he gets in close. He makes it a tough fight. A lot of people criticize Brad Katona's ability to not finish people. There's people that can't finish fights. That is what it is. But Brad Katona can win fights. He actually can win fights. Some people would criticize the Canadian male fighters in particular. Brad Katona is not one of those dudes that just loses fights, especially in Canada. I think that Brad Katona is actually going to come out, get the card started off well, at least with a nice decision victory for himself. Moving on. That was a little bit of too much time. I was trying to keep these picks super quick, but here we go. Daniel Santos versus Jeong. Jesus, man. I went back and forth on this. My initial pick was Daniel Santos, but I got to switch over to Jeong. And this is why. Lee got smoked by Haider Emil in his last outing. That, I don't think, is like indicative of him as a fighter, though. That was just a bad loss. Man got caught with a crazy combo on the feet, TKO'd, standing TKO. It is what it is. But his wins before that were actually quite good. Yi Jia isn't like exactly easy. There's people that I'm not gonna say hate, but they're just because hate is a completely incorrect term to use here. There are people that aren't fully sold on the quality of fighter that comes out of Road to UFC, even if they're the winner, you know. And Jeong is no exception to that. I think he is a little bit better, though. A lot of people have commented on Daniel Santos' problems with health and personal issues, possibly outside of the cage. I think that might be a factor here. I like to think that Jeong is the more well-rounded fighter and bigger here. Daniel Santos also taking this one on a little bit of short notice, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going with Jeong. I can see Jeong going to a decision with this man. I think there's going to be a lot of decisions tonight. Although, I don't remember which event it was, but it was fairly recently. I also thought there were going to be a lot of decisions, but there actually were like half finishes. I digress. Moving on. Marc-Andre Barriualt versus Bruno Silva. I might be tweaking out here, man. This is not really... I'm saying this is not really the Bruno Silva pick. I am picking Bruno Silva, but it's more of the Marc-Andre fade. I think Marc-Andre, I don't want to say Marc-Andre is straight up done, but his style, if you've watched Marc-Andre fights, he relies on his toughness. Not relies entirely. He's a technical fighter and he has power in his hands as well. But he takes shots to give shots, especially in the pocket. I don't think it's going to work out anymore. I think we kind of saw glimpses of that in his last one. I do think Marc-Andre Barriualt is the better fighter, though. He is the better fighter, right? He has to be the better fighter than Bruno Silva. But Bruno Silva does have power. He gave Shara a little bit of work. A little bit of work. He didn't just get dog-walked by him. And I think he definitely has the power to spark Marc-Andre, like in the first round. And that's what I'm going with, honestly. This one's a bit of a reach. I understand if you think that Marc-Andre will win by decision or even pick up his own KO, TKO. That's very possible as well. But I don't know. I'm going to go with Bruno Silva, round 1 KO, TKO, or DQ. Who knows? Moving on. Navajo Stirling versus Ivan Erslan. Damn. I just said I was going for a little reach before. Yeah. Wait till you get a load of this. Or maybe this won't be a reach for you because you'll be on the same page as me. I'm going with Ivan Erslan. Navajo Stirling, right? First off, crazy price tag. And I don't think he deserves it. A lot of hype, too, and I don't think he not necessarily deserves it, but didn't show out up to that standard in his first outing against Tuco Tokos. So that's really fucking rough, man. I think he's definitely a skilled striker. Probably on the sauce. I think Ivan Erslan, though, the experience that Ivan Erslan has, and if he can make it a gritty enough fight to where Navajo Stirling is a little bit out of his depth in MMA, because he's still super fucking green. Man is 6-0, if I'm not mistaken, 7-0. With one of those wins being in the UFC, which, counts for something, obviously, but I could see this, not easily, but I could see it being an upset. Navajo Stirling just overrated against a dude, and I'm not going ahead 100% and claiming he's overrated. This is just kind of my mindset behind it. A hyped-up fighter who ultimately is still very green and hasn't shown us much versus a dude who also hasn't shown us much in the UFC, but has fought quite a bit and I think isn't going to be outclassed physically just straight off rip. So I'm willing to take a big reach, a big gamble on Ivan Erslan, actually. In a juicy upset here. Moving on to Pain. Fucking Pain. Modestas Bukauskas versus Yeong Kutelaba, man. Pain. I fuck with both of these dudes heavy, actually. So much so that it pains me to pick between them. And ultimately, I think this is a coin flip, whether you pick Yeong or whether you pick Modestas. Not that it doesn't matter, obviously. Someone's going to win. Could be a draw, but I do think this is pretty much a coin flip, and many other people feel the same way. Modestas, I think, has improved, actually, a lot. He's very technical. Maybe doing a little bit of work there. Was never really a crazy tweaker, and showed a lot of grit and determination and heart versus Marcin Prachnio, which is a good win. That's a good win, actually. The win over the dude before that, Rafael Cerqueira, that was a layup win. But Marcin Prachnio, not a layup win. That was a good win. He got hurt in that fight, actually. Had to dig through it and got a sub, actually. Quite nice. Got the finish there. Yeong Kutelaba really needs no further introduction to those who watch. And as of late, actually, I don't know if improve is the right word, but I feel like Yeong Kutelaba has altered his style. Like, it's just visible in terms of grappling. Like, including a lot more grappling into his game plans. Keeping himself alive, so to speak. And we've seen it actually work. That's the thing. And I think the odds actually shifted. I think Modestas opened up as the favorite, and maybe Yeong's the favorite now. Minus 102 to minus 118. That was a little bit earlier in the day. Today is Saturday, literally a couple hours before the fights, as I'm saying. But I am going with Modestas Bukauskas, man. Some people are going with the KO TKO. Possibly. I could see that happening maybe in a chaotic exchange where maybe Yeong Kutelaba clips Modestas, like early in round 1. He goes all in, goes for the gamble. Modestas somehow cracks him back, puts him out, something like that. Maybe even a little bit later in round 2, just Modestas maybe catches him. But I think it actually will go to decision, funny enough. I think Yeong's not going to go too crazy. I think Modestas will respect the Kutalaba, and it will go to a decision, but Modestas will come out on top. Moving on. Jessica Andrade versus Jasmine. Jazz the Vicious. One of my girls. Again, if you've been watching the channel for a long time, Jasmine is a consistent pick, has gotten us paid. She does her thing. She shows up, fights the fight, wins the fight, gets paid. Is getting a little bit long in the tooth. That has to be noted. But not as much of an issue versus the opponent that she's facing, Jessica Andrade. Very, very renowned fighter in her own right. Again, a little long in the tooth. Still has some power. This is the real spooky part. Still has some power. Isn't a complete pushover. And Jasmine Jazz Division, as nice as she is, very hittable. Very hittable. Very hittable. Jasmine, I think, is competent in strike. She's a competent striker. Her specialty is the ground, obviously. And especially, like, dogging out fights. But she can strike. It's just the defense. The defense is a little tweaky sometimes. Does get hit. Does get hurt occasionally. Gets cut. But I think Jasmine will do enough to secure us. I don't know if I'm going to gamble on it and say it, but no, I think she actually will get a round 3 submission. Laid in. Jessica Andrade is tired. Possibly Jasmine's already up 2-0 at this point. And just a ground exchange goes further than maybe it has in the previous rounds of that fight up to that point. And it ends in a finish for Jasmine. Maybe by rear naked choke or armbar, who knows. Moving on. Mike Mauled versus Chuck Buff. Charles Radke. God damn. Again. I don't know, I might be tweaking out. This might be the string of tweak, but Ivan Erslan. I don't know what I'm saying. Erslan. Who's Bruno Silva. Fucking Modestas Bukauskas might be tweak. But I am also going with Charles Radke. I was doing so good too. Well, maybe it wasn't me. If you saw the shorts on my channel, it's been Buffy that's making the picks. Chuck Buff. But Mike Mauled, man, is a dude that I think is very gifted skills-wise and athletically, physically as well. But when you see something like the Neil Magny fight, you're just like, whoa, man. What? That lingers. That's a cloud that really hangs over someone's head. But I know both personally and fucking on the outside, you know, fans looking in. But I can't shake that. Honestly, I can't shake that. We saw Charles Radke get smoked by fucking the Nightmare. He got smoked by the Nightmare Carlos Prates. The nightmare has ended. I'm not saying Carlos Prates is washed. I just wanted to say that. But I say that to say Carlos Prates is good. He's that dude. He had a fucking crazy rise himself, was finishing people left and right, literally. Charles Radke took a shot from him. It was one of the nastier finishes, actually, of Carlos Prates. His rise, you know, he was like, woo! Fucking knee to the body. Mike Mauled might work the body crazily, but I think Charles Radke has the power. He didn't get to land on Carlos Prates, but I think he has the power to fucking put Mike Mauled out. I'm not going to lie, actually. Mike Mauled was supposed to be the face of Canadian MMA, right? That was the thing, right? But it's rough. It's rough. Honestly, the odds are the way they are for a reason. Charles Radke should be the underdog, but I don't know. I want to go with Chuck, bro. I'm going with Charles Radke. It's not even like I want to. I am going with Charles Radke. I'm going to say by round 1 KO TKO because I think it happens early when Mike Mauled tries to get shit started, dominate the fight, or at least set the tone, and Chuck Buff with the left hook. Ooh, drops him face first on some nasty shit. Here we go. Moving on. Benoit Saint Denis versus Kyle Prepolak. Hope I pronounced that right, actually, because I didn't get to see any of this dude's footage, any fight footage of this dude who is taking this fight on short notice, the biggest underdog on the card, and he's facing a fucking monster fighter in Benoit Saint Denis, who I think is going to come out on top here with a finish. I'm going to go with submission because I think it might be a club and sub situation. Maybe hurts this dude, Kyle Prepolak, sits him down or something, then BSD attacks, gets a sub from there. This one I'm not going to have too much insight on, really, because I'm not too familiar with Kyle Prepolak, and everything that I was able to read seems to lead towards he's a good fighter in his own right on the regional scene, but it's just I don't know how that'll translate. And again, I don't even know, especially how good he is on the regional scene, as I didn't really watch many of his fights. But I'm going with BSD there. Heavy favorite pick. I think it kind of explains itself. Moving on, Natalia Silva versus Alexa Grasso. This is where we start, I don't know, you could notice a trend here maybe where we're getting the old champs, old legends facing people that maybe it's their turn now. In this case, I think it's actually very much that example. Natalia Silva seems to be the future. I would agree with that. Great fighter, moves very well. Well-rounded as well. A lot of wells right there, but I don't know. Alexa Grasso, I think, is skilled enough to stand and not get overwhelmed by Natalia Silva, like maybe some of Silva's former or past opponents. But like I said, I do think Silva, the younger, snappier fighter, it's her time. It's really her time. I think that she wins by decision. Very calm. Moving on. By probably just doing enough to keep it on the feet and winning striking exchanges, backing out of them at range, cutting off angles. Not cutting off angles, but rather cutting off 2 angles herself. Natalia Silva. Moving on, Jose Aldo versus Aiemann Zahabi. This is a spooky one. And I've seen some people bringing up very valid points online as well about the possibility of bias with judging, especially this is a Canadian fight, spooky hours. I don't know if I'll look too much into that personally, but I will just throw it out there. I think I'm actually going to go with Jose Aldo, man. Initially, I was going to go with Aiemann Zahabi just because I'm kind of thinking, like, when a fighter gets to a certain age, like, when is it going to be the fight where it's not like, oh, they're not just on the decline, now they're plummeting, like they're getting violated. Like, I feel like you have to think about that, but I don't think that's going to be this fight. I'm going with Jose Aldo, actually, to win by decision. I think it's going to be a close fight. But Jose Aldo is still giving dudes like Mario Batista work. Jose Aldo is still having tough fights and giving them work even if he loses, Aiemann Zahabi been winning his fights calmly, but there is a difference in that level of competition there as well. I'm going to go with Jose Aldo to win by decision. Moving on. This is going to be kind of an emotional pick, but for the co-main, the Women's UFC Flyweight Championship. Valentina Shevchenko versus Manon Fiorot. A bit of an emotional pick because I say honestly, the way I think of it is Manon has looked good coming up. She's being who she's supposed to be and done it fairly decisively as well, consistently on top of that. Valentina really needs no introduction. She's a legend in her own right, just definitely closer to the end of her career than the middle of her career. I do think that she's going to have enough, though. And again, it is a bit of an emotional pick. I'm going with Valentina. But unfortunately, I do think Manon, especially, like, she's not crazy young herself, but I don't know. Again, I'm a bit of an emotional pick. I'm going with Valentina Shevchenko. Moving on to the main event, Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. This is another fight that I switched on. Initially, I was going to go with Jack Della Maddalena because I actually think that Jack Della Maddalena, if he lands cleanly on Bilal, can fuck him up and put him out. I thought the same with Leon, though, Like, it's shit like that's tough. And, of course, MMA math, all that good stuff. But Bilal is a grinder like that. He's going to be relentless to get takedowns. A lot of people are pointing out, and I was going to point it out regardless, the Basil Hafez performance. Rightfully so. That was more of a testament to Basil Hafez's determination and skill, rather than a crack against Jack Della Maddalena's wrestling. But that's still there, nonetheless. And that's the hard part. I think Jack Della Maddalena isn't just going to get crushed and subbed. He might, but taken down and held there, that might happen. That might happen for real. Across every round, who knows? Maybe JDM gets up. Maybe he doesn't, though. Really, that's what I think it is. I'm going to have to just lean with the grappling. Heavy skill of Belal Muhammad against the dude who is not the best with takedown defense. And I don't want to say this as like super heavy criticism of Jack Della Maddalena. It is fair to point out, though, having closer fights with maybe dudes who are on skids themselves, like, it's tough. Like, talking about Kevin Holland, but that's Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is nice as, like, again, I didn't even want to get into that tangent, but I do think Belal will be able to win, honestly. By his most visible path to victory, which is grappling. Straight up. Simple as it is. There is something that I did write in my notes here, though. Belal might come into this fight with a chip on his shoulder and be like, yo, I have to prove a point. Like, I got to rush this dude and fuck him up bad. Maybe JDM chilling on some Conor McGregor-esque shit. Catches him coming in. Fight's over in 1. Who knows? We'll see in a bit. Hopefully this video gets to you what it's supposed to get to you. I know it's been a while on the videos, but we'll catch up soon. Please tune into the Smoky Hours live stream if you haven't already. Always love to see new faces. We will be in there in a couple hours from now. Or basically at 6, a little bit before 6. On Saturday, May 10th. I believe it's the 10th. UFC 315 in Montreal. This is where I would say it should be fire. I don't know if it will be fire. Like the video if you like the video. Dislike the video if you dislike the video, but let me know why. Let me know your picks down below. Let me know if you think I was tweaking, chatting, anything, what you had for lunch. Thank you for watching, as always. Much love. Big kiss.